everybody. I missed you. I missed you all. We had a 3-week hiatus, and boy, I miss these Wednesday webinars because every single noon Pacific time on Wednesdays, we do these. We are here for you, my friends, my fellow agents, and we just train, train, train. My name is Via Williams. I'm with Ben Kinney Companies, and I am here today with two fantastic guests, Seychelle Van Poole out of Dallas, Texas, and Aaron Thomas out of Olympia, Washington. Welcome, you guys.
Excited to have you. Yes.
We are going to dive right into the content, and I just kind of wanted to, say welcome to any newcomers and welcome back to my regulars who I really missed you guys. If you are a newcomer, everything we talk about, future webinars to get on our mailing list, everything we do, you can find on benkinneyagenttraining.com. So that's kind of your resource. Maybe Robin can type that into chat for the people on Zoom, and she can throw it onto the Facebook page. But really, script downloads, any of the resources. I think today Seychelle is going to gift us a template of her data tracker, all of that. Yeah, we'll upload all there, and that's where you can find any future webinars, so you should bookmark that page. So Seychelle and I, for all of my empire building podcast fans, you will recognize Seychelle because she is my co-host. But Seychelle, you also own a phenomenal team in Dallas.
Yeah,
incredible mom,
an amazing team. Yes, so my mom is awesome. Her house flooded, Via, so she's actually living in my house right now while I am greeting you in Michigan. That's where we are right now. So we're up here in Michigan. Yeah, so she's in my house right now in Dallas. Yeah, and our team is rocking and rolling.
We should say that. You're in Michigan for the summer because you bought your dream lake home there, and you guys are.
We did. We're renovating a lake house up here. Yep, and we're sitting at, I think, like 60 million so far booked in and closed year to date. The coolest part, though, Via, is we had the biggest month of the history of our company this last June while I'm up here. How amazing is that we can build businesses that can run from anywhere in the world? So it's really
that is a life worth living. That's awesome.
It is. Aaron, tell everybody about you.
Well, same thing almost. Running a team. Several agents, always trying to coach and train. This webinar goes hand in hand with that. It's one of the primary ways that we try to differentiate our agents is with knowing what there is to know about the market.
Other than that, a
couple kids, small ones, running around, trying to keep them under control.
Yeah, that's right. And here's what I think it's fair to say, Aaron. So I lead our 8 brokerages here in Washington State, and Aaron's in one of my office, one of our top agents. And Aaron is a fellow data geek like Seychelle and I. So Aaron and Seychelle and I are kind of the same ilk, like where we get a little jazz, like sending each other stuff and quotes. I know, like Aaron's like, check this out, And so we're all a little bit
amazing.
Kind of
like numbers tell stories, right? Like numbers tell stories. And I had a team member, Marie Hoke, who's actually a MAPS coach with KW, but Marie Hoke said something this week that really hit home to what we're talking about today, which she said to me, you know what? Our society right now is completely inundated and overwhelmed with data, but we are actually starved for wisdom from that data. And so I'm excited today that that's what we're going to talk about is gleaming wisdom and gleaming business from that and turning it into, clients, turning it into better decisions and helping our clients make the best decisions for them.
Really well said. I mean, we have got to be interpreters of data. In fact, we're gonna roll in right now into our content. And the first thing I want to talk about is why, Seychelle and Aaron, why track data? And I would start by saying we have to track data. We are we're the experts in real estate. We are akin to somebody's financial advisor. And I want to kick off the webinar with this story. And some of you guys have heard this story, but I'm going to tell you again because it's so relevant in this context. And the story is, it's not my story, it's a Ben Kinney story. And for those of you who don't know, Ben Kinney is my business partner. He's who I work with and owns all of the brokerages that I run, and highly successful guy in real estate. And he tells this story that I think is the quintessential description of why we need to use data. And that is, he got a call from his doctor and he said, I want to sell my beautiful lakefront lake house. So come give me a CMA and, listing presentation, and let's talk about it. So Ben went there, goes, well, this is a beautiful house. And he's like, yeah, we love it. Really don't want to move. And Ben's like, oh, interesting. Well, why are you moving? And the doctor said, well, we're going to be on a fixed income soon, and got my retirement mapped out, and the property taxes are such that it's going to exceed, what we can afford to live on every month. And so we found a lot in downtown Bellingham, and, we kind of figured out we could sell this house and use the proceeds to go build a house there and, live within our means for retirement. Ben's like, oh, interesting. Okay. So before we, price this house and talk about listing it, can I ask you a couple of questions? And he said, yeah. And Ben said, do you own any other real estate anywhere? And he said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I own a condo in Vancouver, Canada. And Ben's like, oh, interesting. What do you owe on that? Well, we owe it free and clear. Okay. So how much do you think you get out of it? And he was like, probably about 500K US. Ben said, great. So Ben proceeded to sit down with him and go over the math and everything there. Long story short, Ben said, I think you should sell the Vancouver condo, and you should use those proceeds to buy a duplex in Bellingham, because you can buy it free and clear, and we can take the income that you're going to get from that, and it is going to actually make you more money in retirement than you projected. You're actually going to make a profit in retirement, let alone pay your property taxes on your lake house. There's no reason you need to sell this lake house. And that's exactly what they did. Now, what does that have to do with tracking data? It does and it doesn't. The reason I started with that story is we have to think of ourselves as that advisor. We have to think of ourselves as the real estate advisor in their life, just like the financial advisor thinks of themselves as the stock advisor and the mutual fund advisor and the index fund and the 401k advisor, right? This is a skill. If you're looking at the tools in your tool belt on how do you become that person, it starts with the data, I would argue. Wouldn't you guys say that's the case? What made you get excited? What made you guys excited about this? Like, why do you track it?
I think that if you don't know where the future is going, the data helps to write the story as to where it's going oftentimes. And so I feel like it's in our nature, and it's just what we have to do to be able to tell the client what the story is with what may or may not happen. And you gotta, if you're running a typical playbook, you gotta know what's gonna maybe happen.
We had that's great, Aaron. And, for us in 2008, right before the market, actually 2007, right before the October market tank with the stock market, we have a good friend of mine that was actually in our advertising program at UT in college, went into financial planning. And I had, like 12 cents. I was like, here, manage my 12 cents when I graduated from college. But it built and it grew. And he built up a team similar to how we build up real estate teams. He modeled and built up a team with JP Morgan Chase. And I remember in June of 2007, he called me and he said, Seychelle, this is a really weird phone call. And I was like, hey, Ben, what's going on? Weird phone call. Totally my jam. What you got? And he was like, this is weird, but we're seeing a lot of like frothiness in the market right now. And it's really unpredictable. When he says frothy, I'm like, are we talking lattes? Like, what are we talking here? He's like, no, it's bubbly. We have a full-time person that's watching the numbers, and it's bubbling up all over the place. And he goes, this is a weird phone call, but I promised you that I would always treat your money like I treat mine. And I'm actually moving my money to cash, and I can't do that and not call you out of integrity to let you know I'm doing that right now, because I get paid to manage your money. And I said, really? And he goes, you do whatever you want, but I'm just letting you know I am moving my money to cash. And when you started working with me, I promised you I would do that. And I said, well, you get paid to watch that market every day. I watch the real estate market every day. I'm going to move my money to cash. And because he was watching the market, when the market tanked in October, we didn't have a single dime in the stock market. Now, I'm not saying that every time we can have a complete crystal ball like they had, and we've had ups and downs in the stock market since, but I think the beauty of what that story taught me was when you use data and you use it to understand what's going on in the market and you can make educated decisions, you have an opportunity to do a client care call and pick up the phone and all of a sudden make massive value for your client. And we took that same theory. And after that existed, my parents never got a call from their advisor. My grandfather lost 35% of his entire net worth, which he needed to retire in that same crash, never got a phone call. And I thought, what a great example for me of if you see something because you're tracking the numbers, you say something and you pick up the phone, and that's a huge value add you can give your clients. I mean, and we've used that now dozens of times with our clients, saving them hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when you're doing that, who else are they going to use, right? They're never going to use anybody else. Like, I will die with that financial advisor.
Yeah, you will never not use him.
I will never not use him, right? Like,
Yeah.
I will always use that financial advisor because he took the numbers and he turned it into a relationship. And I think that's the value of understanding the numbers, is you can turn it into a massive relationship and one that feeds you business for the rest of your life.
So that's perfect transition into, I think you should tell your story about how you actually started tracking your numbers. That's a perfect transition into it.
Yeah. I mean, so if you're sitting on this call and you're like, yeah. So if you're sitting on this call and you're like, hey, that's great, you guys, but I've never tracked my numbers. And now you're making me feel guilty because I've never tracked my numbers.
Right.
I'm here to tell you that Gary Keller actually told us to start tracking our numbers so I joined in 2004 with Keller Williams. So he started telling us to track our numbers in 2004. I'm going to share my screen. I want you to see when I actually started tracking numbers. This would be January of 2015. So don't wait 11 years to track your numbers. That's going to be lesson number 1 from today. But what we started doing was just a very basic spreadsheet. I asked him when we started tracking our numbers, I wanted to be the Ben Nguyen of the financial market in the real estate space. And we had tracked it like not systematically or regularly. I would kind of do a pop in check in here, pop in check in there and get the numbers I wanted. But I really wanted like a place where I could really see the data. And so here's what I would tell you first. The things you want to track are very easy to find in MLS. And what we started doing was just weekly pulling the numbers at the same time on the same day every single week. And it takes, I think, 5 minutes to do at this point. So not a lot of time. And here are the things we started to track. So the things we wanted to track were total market activity, because you can't go back and research that information. So you want total market activity. How many homes are physically moving through your MLS or your search area? We keep it big and broad for DFW because I want to see macro trends. A neighborhood may not have enough homes for me to see the micro on it. So I search a broader area, my market area. Then we search for how many homes are physically active on the market this week. So active homes. And if you guys want to see something crazy, look at the December.
Oh, that is crazy. Look at that.
Same week in January, like less than half the same number of homes active on the market. And for the first time since January, and you can see all my little side formulas out to the side where I play and do my monkey math, but you can see here for the first time since January, we have now crested over 8,000 homes on the market. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean that we're sitting here with 16,000 homes on the market. We're still sitting here with just 8,500 homes on the market. We're still, basically half of what we had last year at the same week, same time. Then I want to go in and see how many new homes, and this is like new listings, not just new builds, but new listings are hitting the market. So I can see like when we hit, COVID last year, right? We can see when we hit
15th, March 22nd.
Right? March 15th. Yeah. So we had 2,000 homes and we started dipping, right? Ruh-roh. And then all of a sudden shelter in place opened up in Texas the second week, May 15th. Look at that, 4,000 homes hit the market that week. So we can start to see and guide our clients around like, is now a good time to sell my home, right? We can watch and see how many homes are hitting the market. If all of a sudden you have 5,000 homes hit the market in 1 week, that may not be your week to hit the market. You might wait a week or two to delay once those homes move through the cycle a little bit. Or if you see it's like 4,000 homes, 4,000 homes, 4,000 homes, you might just say, you got to go. Mm-hmm. If you're thinking of selling, now is the time to go. But you can use that data to help people make educated decisions. So we're tracking total market, active homes, new listings. Then we want to see who's under contract. So how many
So
homes
we would
went
call
under
that
contract?
pending here in the
pending.
Northwest people. We would call that pending.
Yep. And then we have a little side formula over here that's tracking year over year for us, because I want to see if we have half of the number of homes on MLS right now, right, that are active. I wanted to see, was it just no one was selling their house, or was it that we were actually just burning through the houses faster because they were going under contract faster?
And that is showing what we know, that we're burning through the houses fast.
Right. We're burning through the houses, but data tells a story, right? So this helped us substantiate that to our clients. But you can see, look, when we started to hit May, we had several really rainy weeks. Look at that. And we were comparing back to when shelter in place lifted, and we actually flipped for a little while. It's kind of crazy. So that all of a sudden, that flip right here allowed us to start building our active inventory, right? So it tells a story. Then you get into the last thing we look at is expireds, cancels, and withdraws. And usually July 1st is one of the biggest months every single year, or biggest like days every single year when new cancels and expireds hit, right? January 1st and July 1st are typically your two biggest days. And if you look at ours, actually, like year over year, we're actually pretty light on our cancels and expireds because they're selling, right? And not canceling and expiring. So that was something interesting. That's our entire MLS. We only had 600 expire that week, which is to me a light number compared to most years where we would see a lot more. And so when you look at that, all of a sudden you can start using that data to tell a story. You can use that data to start helping people make decisions. And for us, like 2019 before COVID, one thing we started to see was the number of homes that were going under contract was starting to drop. And we had several like luxury clients that kept saying, we're not ready to sell yet, but we want to maximize their value. We're not ready to sell yet. We want to maximize their value. And I kept pulling our financial advisor, Ben Nguyen's phone conversation. And week after week, I would pick up the phone and say, I'm not trying to freak you out here, but this is unseasonably low right now. And I'm concerned that if fewer homes keep going under contract, our inventory is going to build. And then you're going to have a ton of competition in the spring and you're going to lose money on your house. And they would say, thanks for the call, but we're not going to sell yet. They'd click. And then thanks for the call, we're not going to sell yet. Click.
Here's what I want to like jump in and say, that there's a couple things I want to jump in and say, because Seychelle, I've seen this before. We've gone over this before. Yeah. I want to just make sure everyone understands why it's so valuable to have weekly. It disappears in time. You can never get that back. And because our systems, most of the systems that we work with, roll up to a monthly cumulative. So because they roll up to a monthly cumulative, the only way to track weekly data is to manually do it, unless you have a computer program that can do it, but is to do it like Seychelle, so that you have weeks frozen in time. And you notice she uses it about the same time and the same day every week. Otherwise, so otherwise you can never get that data back. Yeah. Right. Number two,
and I can't see the pendings again. Like I can't go back and see how many homes were active this week last year. I can't see that. So if you aren't tracking it, you can see Gary told me to do it in 2005. I didn't do it till 2015. There's no bad time to start it, but just start it today.
Right. And so I think number two that I would share with you guys is you don't have to do that. I as cool and sexy as that is, and like I know Erin and I are secretly like geeking out and kind of pissed that we haven't done it yet. With that said, you don't have to do it. Like I also don't want to overwhelm. I want you to learn from this webinar, and I want you to see and get an idea of how we're talking and how we use this and what the dialogues sound like with people. But, you know, if you never track, like I have never tracked weekly data. I wish I had it. I haven't, and it's okay too. So I just kind of wanted to kind of share all that. So Erin, what do you track?
So I track so mine's a little more basic. So I don't go into the week.
Mine.
I looked at the weekly a little bit during COVID so I could see kind of what was going on, and started weekly. And then I just, you know, I don't have it leveraged to somebody, so I just didn't make the commitment to do it. However, I do track every single month. And what I look at is the new listings, the pendings, the actives, the solds, the months of supply, the days on market, the average showings, the average price, median price, and then the list price, sale price ratio. And out of that data, I'm able to see a snapshot of at least the quarter, the year, some of the things that via our in trend graphics, but then you have to wait to be able to get that data sometimes.
Kind of. I'll show you. Kind of.
Yeah. And so I do track it manually. It's really easy. It only takes me a few minutes once I have the template built. Mine is not sexy at all. It's a basic Excel spreadsheet. I can actually show it to you.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's take a look.
Well, it's the data that's in there that's sexy. It's not the formatting.
Yeah, you can make infographics. You just need the raw data.
Yeah, you just need the raw data.
And we're not always going to show these to consumers, but I need to know so that we can be specific with our scripting with whether it's a seller or a buyer. Hey, by the way, did you know that in the last 12 months, the value of these homes have went up $102,375? Exactly. So when you have a new agent and they're trying to figure out what are the things that they should say to the consumer, I call it just hacking competency. So you're hacking your competence using.
Oh, I love that.
Because
are you going to share that with us right now?
No one's going to question you when you know your numbers.
I want to see.
Yeah.
So super basic, you guys. What I do is I just track this.
Yeah. Perfect. That's perfect. Yeah.
So you can come right over here, analyze the data, make a simple chart. And so what's in red here, I can show the team, hey, by the way, in the year 2021, look at this. Look at all the reds in the July column. So we're breaking records. So for new listings, pendings, actives, solds, all records for the year, by the way. Months of supply, a little bit different because months of supply, I would gather the record is the low point. And as you can see, we were talking about this yesterday, days on market. Where's the
days on market? Holy cow.
Where's the days on market going to go when people are doing review periods? There's this level of activity. There isn't really the ability for that to really go up or down much. But the moment that this went from 0.3 to 0.4 to 0.5, in my updates to consumers, I can say, hey, we're seeing a trend now. It's looking like the months of supply is building towards the summer. I'll keep you updated if that's going to continue. So you're able to tell them specifically what's going on. So this is my sheet. We broke a record as far as average price. We broke the $500,000 point for average price in Thurston County, which will be a point in my next video that I do when I update the market. List price, sale price ratio. So again, when consumers are asking if there's a bubble, when consumers are asking, should I sell now? I know what to tell them because I've been looking at this. And other people who have been looking at this are going to tell them just, here's what's happened on my last 5 deals or my last 10
deals. Or here's what's happening in your neighborhood in the last 30 or 60 or 90 days, but maybe not the big picture. Yeah.
When it's anecdotal, you get somebody who is very detail oriented. They want to know exactly. They don't want to know what you feel. So again, people are different. This allows us to tailor our presentation towards those people versus the ones that are more, based off of emotion.
Well, facts don't care about your feelings. So I mean, the facts are the facts. But really quick, what I want to say on this is, the raw data is the most important. You can make a million infographics if you want. I don't even track that, Erin. I don't track anything. All I do is I'm literally on trend graphics, and it doesn't matter. Yeah,
pull that. Pull
trend graphics. Yeah.
Pull your trend graphics.
All I was going to say, I'll pull it right now. I have it like right here. It's always up. All I do is I choose, I have a rule. I have what I call the 2-point rule. All I do, I don't track anything, but I am on these charts for any conversation I'm having. You and I could have a conversation. I'll pull trend graphics for anything. I can pull it for the entire system of our MLS. Our Northwest Multiple Listing Service has 23 counties. I can pull it for, often for one listing appointment, I will pull 3. I'll pull the county, and then I'll call, like Seattle Metro or East Side, East Side concentration. And then I'll pull either the city or the zip, because sometimes if there's not enough data, it's a little skewed, but these tell a story. And my 2-point rule is I only show 2 data points at a time to a client. I only show 2 data points. Let me explain. This chart, the default is it's a 3-point chart. The default of this chart, the light green bar that you're looking at, in fact, let me role play. This is exactly me every day with clients. So Seychelle, you are a seller, and we're going to role play. So I
Great.
literally, and by the way, any of you guys who ever wonder, because I do a lot of these webinars, if I'm actively selling, I had 5 closings last week and had a listing appointment Monday night. So I am actively selling. I do that, frankly, for you. I think that it makes any of us up here training and teaching and trying to do this, it makes us better if we're actively in the field. So I just wanted to kind of, so just Monday, this is my script. This is how often I use it. Seychelle, I know you were asking me about, timing and seasonality and where the market's going. So what you're looking at here, is a 14-month graph. The light green bar are all homes on the market between 1.25 and 1.75. And this is just in King County. Okay. This is just in King County. So it goes back 14 months.
So this is my direct competition, essentially. Okay.
Yeah. And then the red line that you see here, these are sales. These are what we call pending sales, Seychelle. They went in contract that month. And the reason I'm showing you these two data points that went under contract that month.
These are under contract. Okay. Got it.
Those are under contract. Now, I'm going to, aside from my role play, what the default of this chart wants to give is a third data point. It wants to give closing. Okay. Why do you guys think I don't care about showing closings? Yep.
Because it's what a seller or it's what a buyer is willing to pay 30 days ago. It doesn't tell me what a buyer is doing today. Right.
We never want to show data that's not relevant to what we're trying to get across. And what I'm trying to get across is this is what you should price your home, and this is the timing when you should do it. So to me, when we have an active listing and we have a pending sale, that's the buyer and seller have come together. That is what is showing market value and market timing. Okay. So for me, I only track these 2 points. I only report 2 data points to clients. There's a few exceptions every once in a while, and I have it recently. I'll add a third point only if it's relevant and it's timely. New listings would be one. So there are periodic times where there will be a little blue line and it would say, and by the way, there's a trend happening with new listings, so that we can kind of get ahead of it per Seychelle. So what this shows us, Seychelle, now we're back into role play. What this shows us is, it's shocking to see this red bar above the green bar. And it's interesting because
I'm concerned because it looks like there's not enough listings there's not enough sellers for where the pendings are. So how is that happening?
What they usually say is, how can you sell more than you have? Like that doesn't make sense. And so what happens is the very last day of the month, right, the system snapshots how many active listings were there in the price point and in the area that we chose. And what's happening is the days on market is so fast, that people, they're coming on the market and they're selling so fast that by the end of the month, there's no more actives, right?
You're burning through it. Got it.
Is a shocking chart. I mean,
if I was looking at this, this tells me that there are significantly more buyers than there are sellers, and that I probably and if you had a crystal ball, how long do you think that would last, if I'm your seller?
Well, let's talk about that. Before we do that, I want to give you a little real estate 101 and a little glimpse into our terminology, Seychelle, because in our world, a 6 month, this is like a neutral supply. 6 months means we don't do anything. No other homes come on the market. At the pace buyers are buying, it'll take them about 6 months to buy the homes, right? That's like straight line. That's a neutral market. And I would argue 5 to 7 months, like somewhere around there. Well, what I can share with you is when it gets under 4 or 5 months, that's a seller's market. Now, on the flip side, if it gets over 6 or 7 months, that's a buyer's market. Heck, I can remember some months in 2009, 10, where it was a 36-month supply when I would pull this chart, just to give you a visual. Okay, but if we're under 4 or 5 months, it's a seller's market.
Whoa.
That was the same data, Seychelle. We are at a 2-week supply.
Months.
We are at statistically net zero. We are statistically at a zero supply. When it peaks out, 2.5 in the last 14 months was the peak, and that is lower than most sellers market. This is a shockingly low number. Shockingly low.
Wow. So what you're telling me, is that I should, if I'm planning on selling anytime soon, I should sell now. That's what that
You should sell now. You should sell now.
Okay.
Now, Seychelle, there is some seasonality involved that we can kind of talk about, and we'll go through that a little bit later in the webinar. But that's really the via talk. Like that is how I talk to my clients. That's how I talk to
I love how
my
you
buyers and my
guided me
sellers.
through supply and demand. You guided me through, is now the right time? Because you know you're going to get that question right, or do you have the crystal ball? So I love that you kind of helped lead the horse to the water through the data through that. That was great.
All of you guys have access to something like that. That happens to be Trend Graphics, but look, every MLS has their thing. It doesn't matter. Yep. It doesn't matter what it is, right? The important thing,
just pick one. I would say pick one thing and use that and get really comfortable with it. Don't worry about 20 different sources. Just pick one way of using your data and just focus in on getting really good at that, so that when you look at it quickly, you know what it is.
Yeah, you can get lost in the weeds pulling the data too. So if you're just using your MLS, I would write a template for exactly how you looked up that data for the next time, and then the next time, and the next time. And what will happen is you'll just know where to look, because it'll be so simple.
And I know we do a saved MLS search, so we can go every Monday. We have a calendar, like a timer that goes off every Monday morning, and we just go and look at that one saved search to pull that data every time, so that you're not having to go back and recreate the wheel.
Oh, is it like an auto email? Is that how you do it?
We just have it as a saved search in our MLS, like as if it's a client, right? You could just do saved searches. You could go in and then pull that data.
Oh,
you don't have to redo it every time.
It's interesting because when you look at how you track data and how Erin tracks data, Erin, what you could easily add weeks to that, I would say. But but the other thing, Erin, you could do, because it's monthly, you could just go rebuild that. Like you could build yourself a multi-year trends of 10 years. Like, we can rebuild monthly. We can never rebuild weeks, And so I think that's amazing.
And I would say, honestly, the only time I ever need the week is in times of crisis. Really. I don't need it when like we're in kind of a normal market. I don't need it when things are going fine. I needed it and didn't have it in 2007 to 2009. I honestly needed it badly in like 2011, 2012. I needed it again in like 2019.
Well, you sure needed it the last 18 months. Yeah, oh my God.
Crazy. Then when COVID hit, I was like, oh my gosh, I can use this to take a look. And Via, I want to show you, like, this is like to be able to show our clients on where is our market going, right? This is one of our market updates we put out. We were then able to take that data and be able to say over the last year from 2020 to 2011, right? Or 2021, here's how many sellers between January, February, March, and April, right? And then now look at where we're going. We're less than 2020, less than 2020, less than 2020. Oh, we're catching up with 2020 now. And now we can see and show the chart, right, that we've gone past 2020. And we're now moving into a larger supply. Well, if you were a seller looking at that and you see the trend of listings going up, what does that tell you to do? You better move fast if you're looking at selling. The other thing that we use that data for is contracts written, right? So then we can go in and show, the same thing. Here's the number of contracts that were written. Oh, shoot, right, COVID, and it dropped. And we have this for the whole year, but we did this for Q1, right? So then you could go in and say, okay, here's contracts written in 2021, and you can see them continuing to go up. We have more listings hitting the market, but we also have far more contracts than we did. And so we can use those two charts to be able to show very visually, how are we doing year over year? How are we doing compared to last year, or even contracts to listings? So you can see directly what that needs to look like. And we just build those I think we build those in Canva, honestly. They're not.
Well, here's what I was going to say. You guys, everyone listening and watching, don't worry about that. Worry about the raw data. All you need is to start tracking the raw data. You can build infographics, charts, anything after. Don't worry about that. Just the data itself is what you need, right? Well, Seychelle, let's stay on that a minute. I want to move into, because we talked about why it's important to track data. I mean, we're all obviously, like, you can see our body language around this. All three of us are super passionate about this. Well, like Seychelle and I, it's not hard for us to get all excitable. And then number two, we talked about what we track and like how we track it and, whatever. But number three, I really want to get into now. I want to spend the whole rest of this talking about how do we use this to get more business, to convert our business? How are we all using it? So let's stay on that, Seychelle. What were we just seeing? Was that your website? Was that an email? How do you use the data?
So we create a quarterly blog post that gives them, a market update that's more like, big picture.
Can you go back and show us that?
Yeah. I put the link to it in the chat for you too.
Okay, we'll put that on agent training as well. We'll put that.
So it says, Dallas Fort Worth market update for June. And we create it. We also send this out then to all of our leads via email as well, right? And it goes into then telling the story of our market. So it tells us how it went before, how did we compare to this time last year, how are we looking in May, right? So far in May, we've had 3 consecutive weeks of over 2,000 homes hitting the market, which has not happened since August of 2020, right? We can use that data, right? As a whole, our inventory in our market's down 76% year over year. 76% down. That's crazy. Right? Crazy. And then we take it into, so we basically tell the story and then we say, what does this mean for our buyers and sellers? And then I turn around and do a couple of things with this. Number 1, we turn this into scripts that we use on our appointments. Number 2, we do training with our agents so that they can tell the story. And then number 3, we turn it into a video and a blog post that gets emailed out to our clients. And then number 4, we haven't done these as much this year, but when times are really fluctuating, we then do virtual and in-person home seller workshops as well, where this data then immediately just gets regurgitated into that as well. One of my favorite things too that we're doing with this data is we can see, like Erin was saying, and I think it's a really important thing to look at, is percentage of list to sales price. That's a really important thing to look, because you want to know, how am I doing competing against my MLS, right? How are my listings doing compared? And something fun that we looked at, I do this twice a year, because I mean, really, you don't need to do it more than that. This is more for how do I become number 1 at something? How am I winning or beating our MLS at something, right? You want to win and you want to show your clients that you're winning. I don't care what the stat is. It could be your days on market, or like Erin showed, your days on market in your MLS are 5. And
it could be new listings, like bringing new listings on. It could be, pacing. It could be
I sell my homes before they hit the market. It could be I get my buyers better deals. For us, we are outpacing the market with our listings percentage of list to sales price by 2.5%. We're beating our MLS. Well, if our average sales price is $494,000, right? We know that that's over $11,000 we're making for every single one of our sellers that our competition is not.
Okay, Seychelle, wait, hold.
Yeah.
Hold. What is the value? Yeah. And now I know there's multiple brokerages represented. We need to be careful about talking about commission. So we're just going to,
this is
2.5% is very close to 3%. So if you're negotiating,
there's no price fixing. You pick your commission.
You pick your commission. And if, for an example, you were charging 2.5 or 3%, and you were 2.5%, you would pay for yourself. They need to hire you. That's amazing.
Right.
You've completely gotten rid of that objection. That right there. Like, some people are going to be able to run the numbers after this and go, magic, I'm 2 to 3%.
Go run your numbers. Yes. I ran them as of June 30th, and we were 2.5% ahead of our MLS. So for every listing we take, we make our sellers $11,300 more than our competition. And that's
Seychelle, the script is, by paying us, you will actually net more than if you didn't pay us, just like your accountant, right? You pay your accountant and they actually save you more money.
Yeah. Okay, by paying us, we actually net you more.
There.
Yeah. I know. So that's what data can do. Data can help you close more deals. Data can help you get deals done. Data can help you get the client. And so for us, that was a great script we used yesterday with our team, saying, okay, June numbers are closed out, first half of the year. How do we look? 2.5% ahead, right? What we won't tell our sellers is we're running 10 days behind our MLS and average days on market, because we're willing to let our sellers test a little bit higher, because we want them to make more money, right? Yeah. So I'm willing to let them test for 10 days and then they drop it, which is why we're running 10 days longer than our MLS average. Am I going to go walk in using that number? No, I'm going to go in with the 2.5%.
Perfect. Okay. So Erin, I want to jump over to Erin and ask Erin, but I want to also kind of wrap that up with a bow. And that is this. It started with Seychelle just started tracking the raw data. I'm guessing back in 2014 and 15, she didn't really know exactly how she'd use it. So the biggest problem most of us have in our marketing, in our real estate marketing, in our client marketing, and our database marketing, and outbounding, and social media ads, social media posts is content. If we all knew exactly what to write and put in as content, we would be doing more, right? So what you do by tracking data is you're building content for yourself so that when the time comes and you're ready for the blog, like if you're looking at that going, a quarterly blog post, an email to my clients every month, you may not be ready for it now, but what you're doing is you're laying the foundation of content for that, right?
Yep.
So Erin, I'd love to kind of know how you're using data and what you're using. And I'd love you to kind of talk to us about your video and how you're using that and what your plans are and everything you guys have going on.
Well, on that point is, I mean, if it's a past client especially, and so we're not talking about necessarily content from an advertising standpoint. So this accomplishes both. Okay, so when you're pulling the data, you're able to put something together that's super helpful for the past clients because it's our job to relay that information. We should be just like their financial advisor, right? We should be the person keeping them up to date. Everybody wants to do a 33 touch or whatever the touch is. And this allows you to at least stay consistent on a monthly basis or whatever you decide quarterly and not have to send a cheesy newsletter of some kind that's a bunch of just kind of garbage, quite frankly. I mean, I'll be honest. This old school coaching in real estate is to send newsletters. And I just don't think that your average person, picture me or you're in your house, you've moved in, you've been there 3 months, maybe you don't care, but you do want to know. Everybody wants to know about themselves.
Yeah,
so
100%.
So I'll show you just what we do, but it's pretty similar. Is that Sharon okay? All right. So social media posts, here we go. And starts giving a little more power to the buyer. So we can use a little more balance. Wondering, is this ever going to change? And we're hearing some rumblings that it's actually starting to change a little bit. So the data allows me to put together a video package and also allows us to run a blast to whatever audience we choose in our CRM. And allows us to give some basis for some statistics right in the email. And from there, if somebody were to click on it, it's going to be posted on the web page and it's going to allow for these basic clean infographics. So we just build this out as a template, swap everything out and get it out each month. And this allows us to just knock out some of that 33 touch in an effective way for them.
Yeah, that's right. And here's the thing, did you start off with all that stuff, right? Did you just start off tracking data and paying attention to data? And did this all come in your first week of real estate?
This has been built over the last, year. It's just adding, improving each time we do the process. So leveraging it to Instagram, Facebook, and now we're branching out from there to the other portals, but just building it kind of system.
Would you say that once you get it started and launched, the maintenance is actually quite easy?
Really easy. Yeah. Pulling all the numbers for each month takes me about an hour. Throw it on the template, allows me to coach the team with specific scripting, which then makes them more powerful out in the field, allows us to educate the consumer, brand awareness, also allows us to eventually, we're starting to get business from it too. That's not a bad thing.
It's also helping you convert your business.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it too.
And also too, I would argue too, like you're talking about different ways to use this. If you want to raise your price point, the data is how you do it. Because when you're talking to CEOs or you're talking to executive vice presidents, they know data. They know their financials. They know their numbers for their business. And when you're walking in the door understanding your numbers, all of a sudden you've gone from a salesperson to a consultant. And you've gone from somebody that just wants to sell their house to a business asset of theirs. And so that was something that we were really purposeful. Like our MLS average is, 415,000. We're over the $515,000 mark. We're 100,000 ahead of our MLS here in Dallas Fort Worth. And it's very strategic because we knew that by being a consultant and by showing up with data to help easily break down the numbers and make decisions, that would help us become more credible with a higher price clientele.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I started presenting data to our entire network last September, Erin. I think it was last September.
Love that.
Once a month, all of our 8 offices come together and we do a market update of the month before. And what I found, Seychelle and Aaron, is because I have to present it and I have to kind of know what I'm talking about, it has skyrocketed both my presentation skills and my knowledge about it when I'm with clients and when I'm with other agents, right? And so I just want to urge everybody watching, choose a couple data points and don't go too far overboard with this, right? I like active, I like pending, I really do like median prices. Watching median prices go up and down has been, for whatever reason, is really helpful. I like sales price to list price ratios. I like those a lot. I don't really track those a lot. Guys, like I think you do a better job than I do, Seychelle, on that, but I like it. I think those are good
I don't
ones.
track those on a weekly basis. I think you can go back. Like what I'm trying to track are the things that I can't go back and pull. That's really the stuff I'm trying to track. It's because I can't go back and see how many homes were active on the market. I can't go see how many new listings because as soon as they change their status, they don't show up as a new active anymore.
Right.
So I can't go back and pull that data, but like I can go pull and, our MLS, the list to sales price. I can go pull days on market. I can go pull like a lot of that other data. So I would encourage you to kind of just take stock of like, if I wanted to look back in time and I couldn't go back and get that, what is that information that I need? The rest of it, you can, when you get curious, you can go pull it.
Yeah, you can go back in time. So here's what I've noticed, and I'd love you guys to kind of speak to this. And this is very, very timely. Here's what I've noticed because I have tracked data for a long time, right? So what I've noticed is like, and this is a good example now, we are finding in a lot of our submarkets here in the Pacific Northwest, I'm based in the Seattle area, we have all been, I should say, most of us have been experiencing lighter listing activity. And I ask around. I have a lot of agents that I text with, and I will often ask their, like, okay, what are you feeling? Are you seeing as many offers on your listing, seeing as many showings? Resoundingly, the answer is no, they're not. And here's what starts happening with that. That is anecdotal, though. There's no stats behind it. The only stat we could possibly have would be the number of offers per listing. And that stat does exist, guys. It actually, I don't know if you know that. NAR has that stat and it's available on a national basis. And it's actually, the stat is number of offers per listing. We don't have that available locally. So here's what I know is that even if we get,
I just wrote that down.
Yeah. Even if we get fewer listings, offers on our listings, which is happening now, what's happening is buyers are anticipating other offers and they're coming in above asking price, just like assuming there's multiple offers. So statistically, let's talk about it. It sells for the same days on market. It potentially sells for at or very similar the sales price to list price ratio. There's no real way to know that there was one offer versus 5 or 10, right? But it's a rear view, it's a leading activity, it's a leading indicator. So if we have windshield and rear view window, it's a windshield activity. I'm already telling you the market is softening in the Pacific Northwest. Is it seasonal? Is it in for, did we hit peak and are we on the way down? I don't know. But that's what I tell my clients. I say, we don't ever know we're at peak of a cycle till we're on our way down. You never know you're at peak till you're not.
That's right.
And but these conversations I can have because I'm so in tune to the data that the anecdotal stuff, is part of it. So I'd love to kind of find out how you talk to clients about that and what you're observing.
I think that's really freaking awesome. I wrote that down. I'm going to go find that data. So thank you. So here's what I think is really interesting is most of the time our media outlets, meaning our either national news media or our local news media, follow what's actually happening in our MLS 90 days behind us. And I believe the reason why that is because even our local, like Steve Brown, who's written for the Dallas Morning News for like as long as I've been in real estate, so 17 years, right? He follows the Case-Shiller Index. Well, the Case-Shiller Index puts out quarterly reports. Well, if it's a quarterly report, that tells us what somebody was willing to do 90 days ago. That doesn't tell us what somebody is willing to do today. And so via tracking the multiple offers, we track the number of contracts written, because for us, that at least tells us what sellers are willing to go for. That lets us know like what is actively happening in our market week over week. And I will argue with you, if you start watching these numbers, you will know what's going on in your market 90 days before anybody else in your market knows what's going on. And so you'll have time to objection handle, prepare, change your presentations, practice your objections, because everyone will think you're crazy at first until they start hearing it in the media. And then they're going to be like, wait a second, Seychelle told us, I have heard this before, and I heard it from, right, like the crystal ball, but it's just because they are 90 days behind. So it's actually a way for you to have a crystal ball and what the media is going to tell people, because you run 90 days ahead if you're watching your numbers.
What about you, Erin? Any thoughts on that? Anything that you say to clients, and kind of weave in anecdotal with statistical data, and what does some of this sound like with your clients?
Well, I like that in our MLS, we can see the total shows per listing. We can see like shows depending, because that's super helpful. What that trend looks like, you can see it rise, and you're also going to see it plateau, and you're going to see it decline eventually. So once we start hitting those trends, I like that I can look at months of supply and see it go from 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6. Maybe it corrects for 1 month, which it's doing in Thurston right now. It's correcting for 1 month. Next month now, when I'm able to pull that data, I'm going to know, okay, is this a trend or is this an anomaly?
Yeah.
And that's what it allows you to do. So when you know these things, I can explain that to a seller. I can literally pull up what I track. It's not sexy. Like I said, I don't use it with all the sellers, but at least I have it and they see it. And our culture is, we don't tell people, we show them. And so I don't, take a CMA and just give it to a client ever. I don't ever do that because I don't want them interpreting the data themselves. So when we show them and we're able to walk through those conversations with multiple points that all point to the same direction, it really lets has the client get a lot of confidence in us.
How do you, yeah, that's great. I think that this discussion warrants, conversation about seasonality, because I don't know how you can really explain seasonality to a client unless you track numbers, right? Because so often I'll hear agents talk about month over month stuff. And I'm like, well, month over month, it would be normal that we would see a decline from July to June.
Yep.
We'll see, often we have our peak closing month here in June and July. But as far as written contracts and pendings, we tend to slow down. We really slow down in August. So we have typically a little bit of a lighter September closing month. With that said, we have a high, we can have sometimes really high written volume months in September and October. So, I mean, I don't know how you know that unless you're looking at numbers. And so how do you guys kind of attack seasonality and kind of explain that to your clients?
Well, I think we found homes still sell in off season. What happens though is you have more motivated buyers and you have more motivated home sellers. And so it's a smaller number of people, but like you don't have the looky-loos of summer out there that were like, I would move if I found the unicorn. And so people that are looking to buy or sell in fall are more motivated. And I would also argue a great home is going to sell during the fall, during the spring. If it's priced well and it's a great home, it's still going to sell. Instead of maybe 10 offers, you might have 3 if you do your multiple offers right. But, I think that that's an important thing to look at too.
Yeah. Anything to add on seasonality, Erin? I'm going to go into some questions, but.
I think it's just to tell them that it's normal. Tell people all the time. Last year was the only time we didn't see this normalcy of the market, in terms of there's 2 markets. There's one in the spring and there's one in the early fall. Right?
Yeah.
It's totally normal. It's more, I think it's more important to understand what their unique needs are and talk about that. So I don't really have people question seasonality too much, other than the people who are worried about the holiday season and should they list then.
I do have one other thing for you, Via. We were talking about showing data. Do most of your MLSs, I know they just got bought by a company with a Z, so we won't name them, but do most of you guys use showing time in your MLSs?
We use showing time.
Okay.
Yep.
So back in the last downturn, Centralized Showing Service was a smaller local regional company that got bought by Showing Time. And they do exactly what Showing Time does, right? They track your data. And like we were talking about, the Case-Shiller Index tracks 90 days out. Your MLS for sold data only tells you what a buyer was willing to pay 30 days ago. And I didn't have our spreadsheet that I have today. So I was freaking out because the market was doing this and I couldn't tell what was happening. And so I went to centralized showing service, which now is Showing Time, and said, I have a crazy question for you, because they were based out of Dallas. And they said, what's your crazy question? I said, I have to put in like zip code, MLS, price, all that junk when I put my listing in? And I said, yes. And I said, do you track that somewhere? And they're like, yeah, we just kind of have like like a data table essentially, that we track it on. And I was like, can I hire a programmer to write basic API code that will give us access to a report? You can give it to everybody. I don't need it to be my own, although in hindsight, I should have negotiated that. So I was like, I don't need it to be my own. Hindsight.
Coulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah. Best business idea that you do actually do and then don't capitalize on. Like, come on, Seychelle. So we went and had a programmer write code to tap into Showing Time's data and pull out how many showings are happening per price point, per day, per zip code. I can't get to neighborhood, but I can get to zip code. And so then what they did was they went and plussed it, which I appreciate. And this is available in Showing Time. You can go in and put in like your price point. I did just like the neighborhood I live in, right? So I put in our zip code. I put in just from May until today. And then I put 500 to 650. And I did $10,000 price increments. And you can actually print this PDF. I guarantee you 99% of the agents in your MLS don't know about this. And what is super cool is you look.
I've never used this before.
Oh my gosh, this is like the best. I close every listing I go on with this data because nobody has it. It's so great.
How do you, tell me how? Tell us the scripts.
Okay,
how would you use this?
All right. So I know the other agent that you and I were talking with is telling you that you should list your home at 525. But you know, what concerns me about that is, in the last 45 days, there's only 19 homes listed, or 19 total showings for buyers looking in between 520 to 530, essentially covering your 525. But what's interesting to me, Via, is you wouldn't think about this normally, but actually the most number of showings in our zip code is between 530 and 539.
Wow.
There are more buyers looking $10,000 higher, $5,000 higher than that other agent is telling you to list. Or you could use it in the reverse, right? You could, let's say the numbers are different and you say, I know you're telling me that you want to be at 575, right? But I'm nervous about that because there's double the amount of showings at 530 to 520 if the condition doesn't work, right? And we pull these numbers every week and send them to our sellers so that we can say like, hey, in your zip code, Via, I know you're mad that you only had 2 showings, but I want you to know in your zip code and your price point, you got 100% of the showings. There were only 2 in your whole zip code, you got it.
Okay,
right?
I love that. That's amazing.
It's so cool. And let me show you how to get to it just in case you guys are curious. So log into Showing Time, go to reports right here. So go to reports, scroll all the way to the bottom. You can geek out on other reports if you want, but this one's my favorite. Target market analysis.
Okay.
And then you go in and you select what you want. So Via, what's the zip code for your area?
98033.
Okay. Hang on one second here. There we go. Okay. 98033. Okay. And what would be the price point? They can't do it because of my MLS. So they won't do it because I'm not your MLS.
Right. So do one of yours. Okay. Do one of yours.
Okay. So let's do in Plano, 75093. Okay. And then that zip code.
Pick a popular one. Pick a super popular price point so we can see.
Okay. Let's do 5. In that zip code, we'll do 5 to 7. Let's just look across. And we're going to let's do like, I kind of like to break it down a little 10. Smaller and 25 or 10, just because then you can see it better. And I always like to give a little bit more than 30 days because it shows you the real trends. But then when we pull it, we pull weekly then to send to our clients after that. So let's take a look. So if we look at that, 590 to 599, we had 190 showings in the last 45 days. And what's cool is you can see then the average number of showings per listing. So if I wanted to target the highest per listing, actually it's going to be over here, right at that 630 to 639.9 is the highest per listing. But if I want the most number of showings in the zip code, I need to be under 600. Wow. So what I might
Erin, is this what you use? Is this what you were saying you use, Aaron?
Or should, no, actually not at all. I'm
What,
in
what
learning.
were you saying that you use? I didn't understand. You
Sorry.
said we have
Oh.
access?
Yeah, so in our local MLS, if you go into InfoSparks, so the stats portion of InfoSparks, you can pull some of that type of data.
Oh,
It's just
We don't have that.
I didn't know that.
Cool.
Okay, well, we'll try to, that's really cool. We'll try to get a video for our people done. Seychelle, that was amazing.
Yeah, go take credit for it. You can just say, we had it written. You can just think of me and Dallas anytime you actually say it.
Amazing.
Say we.
You are,
it's really
you are amazing. We had one question, and it had to do, Melissa Black's asking about lumber costs because they're going down and more new constructions being built. Do we see this changing in the market? I don't know that we need to be new construction analysts, although I am going to have a webinar in the next few months on that. New construction is going to single-handedly dictate whether we recover supply. And it's a very important topic. With that said, I think what's important, Melissa, is to track the data. I think that instead of us kind of pontificating, what I would challenge you to do is to look up new construction, which often I know that on Trend Graphics it's separate. You can pull it separate, right? So, and you can do your build, you know, and so it's a little trickier because if you're going back to 2019, you would have to have things built in 2019 only. You know, so if you're in 2018, new construction would have been 2018, right? So however you're pulling the data, I would urge you to use the data, you know, to help answer your question. You know, has there been another time where lumber prices spiked and plummeted? And if so, go back in time, do some snapshots, you know, whatever it is. I guess what I want is I want everyone to kind of twist their brain to start using data to be that subject matter expert, right? Instead of just guessing.
It tells a story. Kristen on our team always says numbers don't lie. So it helps.
That's right. I mean, the facts just don't care about our feelings. You know, the facts are the facts, and you know, how we deliver them is a whole other thing. It is, we are 1 after the hour, and, you know, just to honor everybody's time, I think we need to wrap, but I can't thank you guys enough. I feel like that probably we need to come back and do this again and kind of just keep going with even more dialogue, even more scripts, even more examples.
I really want to talk to about like taking you guys to the next level of what this looks like for, like we were talking earlier about like forbearance and defaults and all that stuff as we look in the next 3 to 6 months. So I would love for us to come back and nerd out on some of that stuff too. If
you guys will come back in the next few months, we'd love to have you to kind of do a 201 to this, right? So I would love that. Seychelle Van Poole, Dallas, Texas. If you have any referrals, send them her way. Aaron Thomas, if you've got any referrals in Olympia, Washington, I know he would love them. Thank you, you guys. And next week, we have the Huffacre Group, how they got 108 listings in 90 days. They're going to walk us through. We've got 3 or 4 of their team members, guys. Like, you won't want to miss it. In fact, I would even say on that one, take notes. Don't even be driving if you can help it. Thanks, guys. Have a good week, everybody.